Welcome to Log Parsing Part 3B. The reason for this video being a Part B versus Part 4 is I want to cover a specific use case leveraging the knowledge that we gathered in Part 3, and that is fine parsing in existing metakey. Let me show you an example of what I am referring to. We're going to be taking a look at this log file with these messages. If you remember, we did these in Part 1. However, I've added on some additional information at the end, and that information is this message equals field. The parser takes the message field and puts it into a single variable. Let me show you what I mean. Within Investigator, the parser that we built is parsing all of the data in the way that I wanted it to. We can see things like source IP addresses, the user accounts, the hostname aliases. However, if we actually drill in and take a look at the meta that's generated from this log message, we'll see a single field that contains a lot of additional data within it. By drilling into the events, we can actually see the raw messages here within the Events tab. If I go ahead and click on them, we'll actually be able to see all of the data and how it parsed. Scrolling down, we have this index key that actually contains everything from the message field. In my case, I'm very interested in this value here, the controlled by parameter field. I want to be able to parse that out into its own meta key. However, in this case, if we look at the parser, we'll see that message actually parses to the info field. By scrolling over in the parser, we can see we have message parsing over to the info field. What we'd like to do is we'd like to actually break up that info field and pull that parameter out. However, because that message field is so varied in content and length, it would be extremely difficult to do that within the straight XML parser using the token replacement capabilities. As we learned within Part 3 of the scanned rule variables, we can actually add in additional functions to this parser to be able to pull that parameter field out. The first thing we need to do is we need to add in the scanned function capabilities within this parser. The way we do that is by hitting enter a couple of times to insert some blank lines. And what we want to do is we want to paste in scanned name equals info. Again, it's the info field that we want to pull data out of, and then the parse type of parser rule scan. Once we do that, we can add in our regex blocks like we used in Part 3. Add in an additional couple lines. I'm going to paste in our rule block. Now this is just a generic one that I grabbed from another parser to make sure all my spelling and spacing is correct. However, the description that I'm going to put in here will be parameter. Once I do that, I need to come up with my literal. By going back to the log message, what we can do is grab controlled by parameter. The reason I'm grabbing this whole thing is I don't want something else to be added into the parsing if it was a different parameter field. So I want the specific anchor text of controlled by parameter. So we'll go here, add this back into this literal value, and now likewise we need to come up with our regex. Back to regex 101. I've pasted it in the entire message field. Again, as we learned before, I want to make sure that I don't consume more than what I'm expecting to. At this point, let's start to begin our regex expression. What I want to do now is I want to copy and paste in the controlled by parameter piece of fixed text. And now I need to insert my regex parameters. I'm going to use open parenthesis, backslash, W plus, close parentheses. At that point we can see that we're grabbing just the parameter field without anything after that. So this is exactly what I want to do. Let me go back into the parser. I'll copy out this regex expression. Let's go back and now edit this within that parser that we're building. Let's go here into the regex expression, paste that in. So again, the exact same expression that we used before. One thing that I like to add in here sometimes is a /s. The reason why is there may or may not be multiple spaces after this control by parameter. Where I did not account for them in the literal, I need to account for them in the regex. Once I do that, now I need to define where I want to put this to. So I'm going to use a parameter field. At this point, I can go ahead, save and deploy this parser, and what will happen is as log messages come in, it will look through the info field, look for this literal. Once it finds that literal, it will then execute this regex expression, take the result, and put it into the parameter field. This can be very, very useful on grabbing little pieces of information out of a larger data set that actually parses into event description, index, or some of these other fields. I hope that was useful. Stay tuned for part 4. Thank you.